Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Soul Land 3 Legend of the Dragon King Part 7 based on novel. So let's start. Early in the morning, Tang Wulin awoke from his meditation and discovered himself surrounded by grass. It was as if he was meditating in a world of blue-silver grass. The feeling here was much better than the one at his home. He was unaware that this was due to the fact that his soul power had entered the realm of soul masters, as well as due to the variation in his martial soul. His cultivation speed was much faster now. Tang Wulin jumped up from the lawn and shook the morning dew off of his body. Lin Lin! Lin Lin! Lang Yu's anxious voice called out from afar. Mom, I'm over here, Tang Wulin said as he hastily ran out of the little garden. Something's wrong. Enea, Enea. Lang Yu was panting as she ran over. What happened to Enea? Tang Wulin's heart tensed up. Lang Yu took a deep breath to calm herself before she anxiously said, She's gone. Enea is gone. Ah? Tang Wulin was gobsmacked and quickly followed his mother back home. It was true. Enea was gone. She had only left a letter on her bed. Mom, Dad, Big Brother, I'll be leaving now. Thank you for taking care of me these past few years, but I remember who I am now. My family has come to pick me up, so I have to go. I was really happy during the days I spent with you all. Extremely happy. I really didn't want to part with you all, but from the memories I've recalled, I know that I must leave. I have many things I must do. Big Brother, I will always remember how you looked when you protected me from those bad guys. I will always remember the taste of all the treats you've bought me. Enea. Tang Wulin was dumbfounded as he stared at this letter. Despite adding to their burdens, Enea had brought them numerous joys ever since she'd joined their household. Tang Wulin was so happy after getting a little sister. He always felt unusually satisfied whenever he watched Enea eat the treats he bought with his forging money, especially when she gave him a sweet smile. How can this be? Enea, how could you leave like this? How could you? Even if you found your family, you can't leave like this. You can't leave. Tang Wulin turned around and ran out. Lang Yu wasn't able to stop him before he rushed out of the house. Enea, Enea. Sobbing screams resounded throughout the small town as Tang Wulin madly ran about, shouting out as he searched for Enea's silver hair and violet eyes. Enea tightly held onto a crude rag doll as she leaned against a wall, one teardrop after another dripping down her face. That was the first present Tang Wulin had bought her with his monthly wage. The rag doll had violet eyes and silver hair that Tang Wulin had dyed himself. It looked just like her. Tang Wulin's image unceasingly revolved in her mind. It was only when they were together that both of them were full of smiles. He seemed to have always been thinking of ways to bring a smile to her face. He was always there to protect her when someone tried to bully her. Even if he was facing a powerful bad guy, he would still be as stubborn as before. Big Brother, Enea whispered, as pearl-like teardrops fell onto the ground. Young lady, we must leave now. He scoured the whole town, searching every corner for anywhere Enea might have gone. He even ran along the coastline in search of her for a long time. In the end, Tang Wulin couldn't find a single trace of her. His throat had long since gone hoarse from shouting. Regardless of that, Enea was gone without a trace. Aside from the letter, Enea had left behind a few other things. She had left a small silver pendant necklace with an inlaid silver gem. The gemstone was perfectly round, with a silver thread around its edges. 7 rays of light could be faintly distinguished as they twinkled within the gem. One look and it was easy to tell that it held considerable value. However, in Tang Wulin's heart, this gemstone couldn't possibly compensate for his little sister's presence. Tang Wulin attended school and went to the forging workshop with a muddled head. For the next several days, it was as if Tang Wulin had lost his soul. Every day, he would prowl the great streets and small alleys of glory-bound city until late in the night to search for a trace of Enea. He made many mistakes in his forging work due to his mental state, and was firmly scolded by Mang Qian. Tang Wulin couldn't help but continually ask himself, why did Enea leave? Why didn't she tell me where she went? His spirit didn't recover until a whole week later. Red Mountain Academy. Tang Wulin, Lin Shimen called out from the lectern. Here. Tang Wulin stood up. His sadness over Enea leaving had lessened a bit after a whole week had passed. He went up to the lectern and accepted Lin Shimen's recommendation letter. This was the special recommendation letter from the Red Mountain Academy. As long as one was granted this letter, they would be able to register for an intermediate Soul Master Academy. Every single student in the elementary academy who successfully became Soul Masters could be recommended to continue their studies at an intermediate academy. No matter what one's martial soul was, they would meet the requirements if they possessed a soul ring. Accepting this letter also signified the conclusion of Tang Wulin's days of attending the elementary academy. Wan Yunchao winked at Tang Wulin from the seat beside him. We're graduating now. Let's go swap pointers later. Tang Wulin unhappily shot a glance at him. I'm busy. I have to go to work later. Due to the mistakes he had made a few days ago, Mang Qian had added 3 hours to his daily working hours. Wan Yunchao's mouth twitched as he said, Coward. You're just afraid to lose to me. Tang Wulin's eyes flashed with a furious light. I'm not a coward. Fine then. I'll spar with you after school in the grove. There was a large grove behind Red Mountain Academy. This was where students usually took their nature studies class. It was very quiet here after school, since very few people would generally come here. Wan Yunchao was still as fat as before. He joyfully dragged Tang Wulin to the grove as soon as the school day ended. Let me tell you, Tang Wulin, you absolutely can't match up to me as an opponent. Tang Wulin didn't utter a word. Good, then. We'll start right here. Wan Yunchao stopped walking, then impatiently released his martial soul from his hands. After a flash, a short blade appeared in his palm. Compared to when it didn't have a soul ring, the short blade seemed somewhat wider, with lit-up vein patterns on its surface. A white 10-year soul ring rose from the soles of his feet. Wan Yunchao silently moved the soul ring onto the short blade, causing the blade's tip to extend out as 15 centimeters of length were added to the upper part of the martial soul. Did you see it? My first soul skill is knife tip. I even spent an extra 10,000 federal coins to invite a spirit master over to help me pick this spirit soul. Since this spirit soul is also a knife, it directly complements my martial soul. My knife tip will conquer all. Tang Wulin furrowed his eyebrows. Why are you so full of nonsense? Wan Yunchao glared at him. At this point in time you're still saying I'm full of crap. Since I'm worried I'd hurt you, just hurry up and admit defeat. I'll let you off this time. If you don't, my knife tip will not spare you any mercy. As Wan Yunchao said this, he flicked his wrist and a knife tip shot out towards a sapling's trunk. It was as wide as a bowl, but was still instantly cut down. Tang Wulin stared at him disdainfully. Plants are also living creatures. Why did you cut that sapling for no reason? Wan Yunchao was going to open his mouth and reply when he saw that similarly, white ring had materialized around Tang Wulin's legs. Vine after vine of blue-silver grass grew simultaneously from the palm of his hand. Those slender vines of blue-silver grass, however, did not rush directly at Wan Yunchao. Their ends were instead suspended mid-air around Tang Wulin. Moments later, ear-piercing screams could be heard echoing out from the small forest. Pa! 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 Ayo! It hurts! Tang Wulin, you are shameless. If you have the ability to do so, come closer and fight me. Pa! 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 Ayo! Ayo! I surrender. Can I please surrender? How could you even use your blue-silver grass in such a fashion? When the two individuals left the forest, out of the two it was Wan Yunchao who looked the most pathetic. His entire body was riddled with numerous lash marks. Tang Wulin was still incapable of fully controlling his blue-silver grass. He had spent all those days searching for Enea, to the point where he had even neglected part of his meditation. This did not influence the whipping aspect of his control, however, when he used it to attack Wan Yun Chao. Both of them were still kids, thus they did not know any battle techniques. That inch-thick blue-silver grass proved how tenacious it was. Since Wan Yun Chao's short knife and knife tip could not attack from a distance and he had no knowledge of any other battle techniques, the result was obvious. Why? Why did it turn out like this? With a soul skill, I should have been able to beat you. Wan Yun Chao shouted indignantly at Tang Wulin, who was currently supporting him. Tang Wulin replied angrily, Teacher Lin had already said it before, your martial soul is well suited for melee battles. Thus it is well suited for the path of the agility attack system. However, you're so fat. How could you possibly be agile? Wan Yun Chao had an unconvinced expression on his face as he asked, then why was it that when my knife tip attempted to hack your blue-silver grass apart, it was unable to do so? Tang Wulin replied, well, this is my blue-silver grass's specialty, so long as my soul power is not depleted, you cannot hack it apart. Wan Yun Chao looked up to the skies and bellowed, I will lose weight. I will become an agility attacker. What are you going to eat tonight? I think it should be pork shoulder. After sending the lightly injured Wan Yun Chao back home, Tang Wulin rushed over to Mang Tian's workshop. What surprised him was that Mang Tian was already waiting for him inside. Teacher? Tang Wulin respectfully addressed Mang Tian. Ever since he knew that his teacher was a 40th ranked soul ancestor expert, he had even greater respect for him. Mang Tian nodded his head and asked, so have you graduated? Tang Wulin replied, yes. I have graduated. Mang Tian then asked, will you have to go to the Intermediate Soul Academy in East Sea City? Yes. I was planning to tell you. Once I go to East Sea City to study, I will not be able to continue learning how to forge from you. Tang Wulin replied. Mang Tian gave an unenthusiastic reply, just because I like this place for its peacefulness does not mean I won't leave this place. The truth is, all of the work that is requested comes from East Sea City. Your blacksmithing education cannot deteriorate. I also have a workshop at East Sea City and I will give you your own blacksmithing workshop. Every so often, I'll visit you and give you some instruction. Tang Wulin's heart felt a surge of warmth. Teacher, you. Mang Tian's fiery gaze glared at him. East Sea City is a truly large city. It is not like here. Before you go, you have to first complete my test. If not, you have no qualifications to continue learning the blacksmithing craft from me there. A test? Tang Wulin stared blankly at him. Teacher, what test? A ray of light gleamed in Mang Tian's eyes. The 1,000 refinements. Tang Wulin asked in surprise, Teacher, you are finally going to teach me the 1,000 refinements. Mang Tian nodded his head. You have fused with a spirit soul and your strength has risen sufficiently. You should be able to withstand the 1,000 refinements. Finishing one execution of the 1,000 refinements will count as you passing my test. As he said those words, Mang Tian felt a peculiar feeling within his heart. He could still clearly remember that when he had just started practicing the 1,000 refinements, he was already 15 years old and his soul power had surpassed the 20th rank. In addition, his martial soul was the Earth Hammer and was the one that possessed absolute physical strength. By completing the 1,000 refinements at 15 years old, he was already being seen as a talent in the blacksmithing world. Unfortunately. Teacher, can we begin? Tang Wulin's excited voice brought Mang Tian out of his reminiscence. Hold on a moment, I have to first gauge your strength. These few days you have failed many of your assignments. Firstly, you were not focused on your work. Secondly, it seems as though problems have arisen with regards to your ability to control your strength. Mang Tian had been silently observing his disciple and thus had determined the root of his disciple's problems. Indeed, it was not only Mang Tian, but also Tang Wulin who realized that problems seemed to have arisen with regards to his physical strength. That day, after he fused with the spirit soul, he had tried to apply force through his arm and that had resulted in a resounding crack as his movement split the air apart. His strength had indeed grown immensely. In the end, since he had been constantly out in search for Enea, along with the fact that he was still extremely depressed due to her departure, he had not paid any attention to the situation of his body. It was only when Mang Qian reminded him of it that he remembered that there was such a problem that occurred prior to everything that had happened. Thus for the last few days, as he had attempted to forge his assigned tasks, he had failed several times due to his strength being too forceful. Mang Qian brought Tang Wulin to his own workshop. His workshop was a lot messier than Tang Wulin's workspace. In a large pile of randomly strewn tools, Mang Qian managed to find the tool that was specially designed to gauge one's physical strength. Strength testing tool. While it was a simple act to manufacture such a tool, it still required one to be meticulous in order to ensure that it would be able to accurately gauge a person's strength. This strength testing tool was built using two parts. The lower portion was a flat square base, while the upper portion consists of a round cylindrical pillar. Behind it lies a 2-meter-tall metal pillar, whereas inside the pillar was a long thin tube filled with mercury. When the blacksmith wishes to test his strength, all he has to do was strike the metal pillar. At that point, the mercury would rise according to the force of the strike and thus gauge the strength. One would have to use a blacksmithing hammer weighing 50 kilograms for the test. The strength testing tool would automatically deduct the excess force acquired from the hammer's weight. Ever since Tang Wulin arrived at Mang Qian's workshop, he was required to test his strength each year. The first time he tested his strength, he could produce a force of 70 kilograms. At that point in time he was only 7 years old. When he was 8 years old, this had increased to a force of 100 kilograms. Although being able to produce this force was largely in part to him constantly swinging the hammer as part of his work, it must still be said that producing such strength was extremely shocking. He had yet to test his strength at 9 years old, thus, today was the perfect day to do it. First start the test with your left hand. Mang Qian passed him the blacksmithing hammer required for strength testing. The blacksmith's strength test was split into the left and right arms. Tang Wulin had surprised Mang Qian the first time he had taken the test, as his left and right arms were exceedingly balanced in strength. His right arm had only been a bit stronger than his left. Tang Wulin gripped the forging hammer in his left hand. The spiral pattern on its handle dug into his tender hand and tough calluses. His grip became exceptionally firm. He took a deep breath and turned his body around halfway. Then his arms suddenly swung the forging hammer with the condensed power of his whole body. At that moment when he fully exerted his strength, he felt a surge of warmth flowing from his tailbone. In a flash, this warmth spread up throughout his vertebrae. The hammer let out an ear-piercing whistle as he swung it, ruthlessly smashing the plate. Bang tilde tilde tilde. The mercury inside of the pillar shot up in a flash. A clear sound rang out in Tang Wulin and Mang Qian's ears, giving them a brief moment of tinnitus. Mang Qian needed his eyes, as if to confirm that what he saw before him was the truth. At this time, the screen revealed a number. An electronic voice coldly stated, striking power, 483 kilograms. Tang Wulin and Mang Qian could only stand there foolishly in shock. When he took the test the year before, Tang Wulin was already able to shock Mang Qian when his right arm exerted 200 kilograms of force. But now, this number already exceeded the fully grown brother Long's. In but a short year, his strength had shockingly increased dramatically again. Moreover, this was just his left arm. A 9-year-old child was actually able to exert nearly 500 kilograms of force with a single arm. This truly had to be innate divine strength. Mang Qian did his best to restrain his emotions as he said, right arm. Tang Wulin switched the hammer over to his right hand and once again took a deep breath. A flash of golden light appeared within the deepest depths of his eyes. He twisted his body again, then swung his arm. Once more, a warm feeling began flowing into him from his vertebrae. This time, the hammer howled through the air with an even greater ear-piercing ferocity, causing a series of explosions to sound in the air. Bang tilde tilde tilde. The whole room trembled slightly under its power. This time, Mang Qian had to cover his ears to protect himself from the ringing. The room continued to tremble from the impact. Striking power, 543 kilograms. 543 kilograms? He had broken through 500 kilograms. Mang Tien was once again at a loss. Although he had already guessed the boy's strength increased by no small amount, he definitely hadn't expected it to have increased by such an extent. At 9 years old, his two arms had a combined strength of over 1,000 kilograms. His existence could already be considered to that of a little monster's. Although this was merely explosive power, this was still the strength that could be used when forging. Even with the machine's automatic deduction of the hammer's weight, his arms could still reach a strength of about 500 kilograms. Even Power System Soul Grandmasters wouldn't necessarily possess such strength. It wasn't until the Soul Elder ranks that this type of strength could be seen. He had this kind of innate divine strength, but why was his martial soul blue-silver grass? It should have been a power-type martial soul. If his martial soul had been a hammer, then he truly would have been a genius. Tang Wulin was also shocked by his own strength. Even if he didn't understand the significance of 500 kilograms of strength, he still clearly understood how terrifying this type of strength was for someone who only had one soul ring. Few could compare with his strength even if they used a soul skill. "Teacher, can I really learn the 1,000 refinements?" he asked tentatively. Mang Tien woke up from his daze and nodded. "I didn't expect your strength to actually reach such a level. Let's go to your forging room." After returning to Tang Wulin's forging room, Mang Tien took out a chunk of silver-white metal. "I've already taught you what types of metals can undergo the 1,000 refinements. This here is a piece of heavy silver. Its ductility is superb and it possesses excellent soul power transferring properties. Only the 1,000 refinements can bring out the full potential of this grade of metal. Take it and use it to attempt your first 1,000 refinements. The so-called 1,000 refinements isn't as simple as just pounding the metal 1,000 times. Rather, the metal's impurities must be dispelled under continuous forgings, thus increasing its density. Also, the most important effect of the 1,000 refinements is refining. It can only be called 1,000 refinements if the metal is refined and improved. For example, there's the tungsten steel in the 1,000 refined tungsten hammer you're using. It was already very strong, but after undergoing 1,000 refinements, its size has been reduced by a third while its strength has doubled. Another effect is that its weight has increased by 30%. Compared to another piece of tungsten, only a qualitative change could increase its weight as well as its exceedingly tremendous strength. The tungsten steel's refinement is among the simplest of refinements. Exceptionally good 1,000 refinements can give rise to even more unusual effects. The better the effect of its refinement, the higher the value of the 1,000 refined metal. After reaching the level of the 1,000 refinements, you must first have the metal undergo the 1,000 refinements before you use other techniques to shape it. As a result, the value of anything made with 1,000 refined metal is 100 times higher than those made of 100 forged metal. Only after you've attained the skill of utilizing the 1,000 refinements can you then be considered a true blacksmith. Tang Wulin didn't know that for 90% of blacksmiths, the level Mang Tien spoke of was an unattainable dream. 1,000 refinements required more than just strength. What truly mattered was comprehension. Especially in regards to the feelings of the metal. Tang Wulin had studied hard for 3 years. Only now, coupled with his innate divine strength, did he finally have the qualifications to attempt the 1,000 refinements. "Teacher, what techniques are needed when performing the 1,000 refinements?" Tang Wulin asked. Mang Tien shook his head. "There aren't any techniques that I can teach you. The only thing I can tell you is that when you are forging, you must treat the metal as if it were a living organism. You must think of a way to communicate with the metal while you are forging it. Only with perfect communication will you be able to attain its approval. Find its secrets, its veins. 1,000 refinements is also called thought forging. Every single blacksmith's style of doing the 1,000 refinements is different. They all have their own distinct characteristics. Use your heart to forge. Go and try to comprehend my words." "Yes." Tang Wulin nodded. He had originally thought that Mang Tien would at least give him a demonstration, but it seems that his teacher had completely different ideas. Rather, he left Tang Wulin to learn it on his own. After opening up the forging table, he placed the heavy silver within the forging table's furnace and began heating it. This piece of heavy silver was about 30 centimeters squared. It twinkled a soft silver light. When it entered the forging furnace, Tang Wulin began to recall the introduction to the properties of heavy silver that Mang Qian had given him before. Heavy silver was an uncommon metal that could only be found on the seafloor at depths surpassing 1 kilometer. It was extraordinarily hard and possessed amazing ductility under high temperatures. It was also an excellent conductor of soul power. In fact, it was so good that it could amplify soul power and give it a 5 to 10% boost. Whether it is used for industrial purposes or for manufacturing measures, it was still an excellent metal that was hard to come by. Still, heavy silver was not without its own flaws. It was simply too dense, bestowing upon it an extraordinary weight. For instance, this piece of heavy silver that was less than a third of a meter long was over 200 kilograms in weight. In fact, it likely neared 300 kilograms. As a result, even if heavy silver was produced in excess, it would still be impossible to use it in large-scale mecha manufacturing. Its weight also restricted its applications in mecha manufacturing. It was much more prevalent in large, solid-state soul devices. Heavy silver was rarely found in cities that were located further inland. It was instead much more common in seaside towns and acted as an important source of income for these seaside towns. His teacher had given him a chunk of heavy silver. Upon inspection, it appeared extraordinarily perfect. Its color was very even, signifying that it had already been purified before. Lastly, it felt heavier than usual. The heavy silver was hard, but it was still softened under the blazing heat of the furnace, becoming far more ductile. Only when heavy silver was in this state would it be suitable for forging. This video will end here.